Hi, you are in Istanbul and at Real Turkey channel where we do Turkey right. I am Atilla Yesilada. You are at my homemade studio in my living room. And today I'm going to talk about Erdogan and Trump relationship. And I'm going to assert that Trump is God's gift to Erdogan. Slowly, the relations that have been frosty, using a moderate word, for the last 10 years are changing into a mutual dependence or mutually beneficial transactions, which can help Turkish economy as well as Erdogan's standing among global leaders. Really, what brings me joy in these dark days is peace in Gaza, or perhaps just a ceasefire. I am just happy that those poor people have at least a few days to breathe. Knowing Middle East politics somewhat, I am not so sure the peace will hold. Knowing Netanyahu slightly better, I know that to stay in power and not to go into prison, he needs a war. If it's not going to be in Gaza, it's going to be Lebanon or Syria, where the Israeli army will be pitted against the Turkish army or its proxies in Syria. But these are not the main topics of today's video. Erdogan has really done a great job in terms of intermediating America and Israel's demand to Hamas, perhaps even to persuade Hamas to accept the plan, which actually offers the Palestinians very little, except perhaps, the end of starvation and a cruel embargo. Nevertheless, he brought Hamas to the table, along with Qatar and Egypt, of course. And Trump, according to my humble memory, has thanked Erdogan no less than 10 times over the last 6 months. As you know from my past videos, there was a Trump-Erdogan summit which lasted 1.5 hours behind closed doors. And even though no one knows what has been talked about, there has been no leaks from the White House side as far as I know. All the experts, whether domestic or international, Turkey watchers have concluded that it was a fruitless summit, that actually Trump is just paying lip service to Erdogan's efforts, and Turkey is not going to get anything out of it. I completely disagree. My understanding of Trump is that he's a man who carries his soul in his mouth. If he says, "This man is my friend," we can expect a mutually beneficial relationship or some kind of gifts or rewards to that person. The counterexample, of course, is Putin. Trump's, I'm sorry, Freudian slip. Whenever I think of Trump, I think of Erdogan. They are so similar to each other. Trump really trusted Putin, considered him a friend, and he thought just by speaking to him or imploring him, he would provide peace in Ukraine. When Putin disappointed him, Trump turned extremely angry, and now he's threatening India and China with sanctions unless they stop purchasing Russian energy. So when he says Erdogan is my great friend, what we can expect? I think even one favor that's completely under the direction of Trump would probably gain Turkey $40 billion, which is the Halkbank case. Halkbank has been on trial for as long as I remember, maybe now 10 years, in a lawsuit initiated by the Justice Department about breaking and helping break Iran sanctions. A lot of the case went back and forth between the Constitutional Court and Federal Appeals Court. Finally, Constitutional Court refused to accept Halkbank's petition for a retrial, so Halkbank will be tried in the New York Federal Appeals Court. I'm not saying Halkbank is guilty, but based on the evidence of state witness Mr. Reza Zarrab and perhaps others, there is a strong reason to believe that it might be. In this case, what kind of penalty would Halkbank pay? A state lender which has less than $1 billion in capital. Halkbank's own estimate is only $1 billion, probably less, but estimates run anywhere from $5 billion to $40 billion. The last coming from a Bloomberg article where Bloomberg's excellent research team investigated the legal merits and past cases, precedents, and found that Halkbank and ultimately Turkish Treasury could be liable to damages up to $40 billion. And that's roughly 3% of Turkey's GDP. If Turkey doesn't pay, she will be kicked out of the SWIFT. Now it's completely under Trump's discretion to order the Justice Department to withdraw the case, which would solve the problem. Turkey would sign a protocol stating that she is not guilty, but she doesn't want to go through the trial, so will pay a small penalty. Turkey's offer is $100 million. I think $1 billion or so would be fair. If Trump does that favor for Turkey, we would really get rid of the Damocles sword that's hanging over the entire Turkish banking system. But that's not all. A lot of analysts think that Erdogan is the supplicant. That is, we are going there with hat in our hands to beg Trump to do favors for us. For instance, get rid of the Halkbank case, persuade Congress to lift CAATSA sanctions, which prohibits Turkey from buying much-needed military equipment and high-technology equipment, such as F-35s. This is not true. It's true that we want a lot from Trump, these items, as well as to stop Israeli aggression very close to our borders in Syria, and of course to persuade America's ally in Syria, Syrian Kurds, to accept being integrated into the central government. But we also have a lot to offer to the United States, and I think people miss that point. It's not a one-sided deal. Trump does want Turkey to reduce its purchases of natural gas and oil from Russia. I don't think that's a demand, but a polite request, and Turkey complied immediately. As of September, Turkey's imports of crude oil from Russia fell to the lowest level of the year. Natural gas cannot be immediately stopped because Turkey will freeze and our factories won't find any energy to produce things. But Turkey is building a huge capacity for storing natural gas and liquefied natural gas. And as contracts expire, it is believed that Turkey will reduce its dependence from Russia in terms of natural gas. Now remember, doing that is not only economically costly because Russia sells oil to Turkey at preferential prices, but it's also politically costly because nobody wants to incur Putin's wrath. We're right at the border with Russia. We have great trade, not only energy, but they send their tourists and buy our manufactured goods and agricultural goods. So by risking to incur Putin's anger, reducing oil and gas purchases from Russia is a very politically risky move. And I'm sure Erdogan's efforts to comply with Trump's request will be appreciated for what it is. But that's not all. There are two more issues where US will directly benefit from a closer relationship with Turkey. One of them is an obscure 100-kilometer or 60-mile long corridor through Armenia called the Zengezur Corridor. It connects Azerbaijan to autonomous Nakhchivan Republic, which is part of Azerbaijan, and it's contiguous to Turkey. If this corridor is opened, then all goods from Azerbaijan or Trans-Caspian countries, such as Turkmenistan, even China, would flow through what the experts call the middle corridor. Clearly, the more traffic, the more you make on hospitality, services, toll fees, etc., etc. But more importantly, Turkey will be able to export more, and Nakhchivan, Azerbaijan's autonomous province, is neighbor to Turkey's second most underdeveloped region. And usually trade brings faster development with itself. So Turkey's sustainable growth rate will increase. So what are we giving Trump in return? Well, it just so happens that the Zengezur corridor is only miles away from the Iran border. Now imagine, Trump already rechristened it as Trump Road and already secured a concession from Armenia and Azerbaijan for 99 years to manage the road. First, United States will be able to see what's coming from Central Asia, China or other Central Asian countries. Two, the Strip is an excellent location to build new spy bases or installations to watch Iran. Three, when Azerbaijan and Armenia make peace, Russia and Iran will be completely kicked out of the Southern Caucasus, which is a great benefit for NATO and regional security. So, Trump wants things from Turkey, and we're helping peace by obviously talking to Azerbaijan and slowly lifting the sanctions on Armenia and promising Armenia more trade benefits, more investment from Turkey in return for allowing the Zengezur corridor to become operational. Finally, and most importantly, there is Turkey's rare earth deposits story. I say story in quotation marks because I have done videos about Turkey's natural gas discoveries in Black Sea and oil discoveries in the Kurdish region of the country, southeast, Gabar Mountains. And people at the comments made fun at me, mocked me, which is fair. But currently, again, according to Turkish sources, gas from Black Sea heats and provides electricity for 4 million households, which is not a small number. Production from Gabar facility is 75,000 barrels a day, which is just a drop in the bucket. But remember, we import almost all of our energy, so 75,000 barrels times $60, per barrel per day really reduces Turkey's current account deficits, perhaps marginally, but the fact that these installations are operational suggests that eventually they will deliver more yield, more natural gas and oil. So that makes me kind of eager to look into this rare earth story. I'm a latecomer to technology. I have discovered artificial intelligence only in last 6 months. I work with ChatGPT and Gemini. Neither are a sponsor to this program, by the way. So this is free advertising for them. And I'm very happy, not in the sense that it does my work, but it accelerates my work significantly. So I am as skeptical as you are about everything that Erdogan promises. I looked into Turkey's rare earth story, rare earth minerals story, as closely as possible. There is a probable or possible reserve of 664 million tons. It contains 10 of 16 rare earths, and it's second to China. Even if we trim these estimates by 50%, Turkey has clearly very high reserves. Turkey is so confident about her claim that it's seeking international certification about the quality of the ore. My humble understanding about this rare earth business is that a rare earth concentration of 1% in the ore is sufficient to exploit it economically. And in fact, a Turkish state economic enterprise, Eti Madencilik, Eti Minerals, is already digging the ore and is working on building manufacturing facilities. Now remember, what the biggest beef between China and United States is currently, I'm sure other issues will come up eventually, that China has issued rather severe restrictions on the export of rare earths and also on the exports of those who use these rare earths in any kind of production process. Now remember, what's the biggest beef between Trump and Xi? That China has issued very strict export controls and licensing requirements for rare earths, not only for Chinese companies, but also for those buyers who use these elements to produce something. They will also seek a permission or license from China to export these to any country. And rare earths are really rare. They are used in almost everything from our GSMs to strengthening metals and green revolution, the greening of the economy. It seems to be that Turkey and the United States can cooperate to develop these reserves and to make sure that in a 5-year framework, United States is no longer, or the world is no longer so dependent on Chinese rare earths. I think it would take at least a couple of $2 billion of investment, which Turkey would provide as a franchise or concession to American companies in return for American companies buying a certain percentage of the manufactured ore. What I've tried to prove in this video is that Turkey doesn't beg Trump to do anything for him. In return, we offer rather promising rewards to the United States. And I think this is the beginning of a fruitful relationship. Again, a lot of people would mock me. So I am setting up a hypothesis to test or a litmus test for my hypothesis. Halkbank is the easiest thing that Trump can do for Turkey. If the Justice Department withdraws the case for an undisclosed penalty from Turkey, I think there would be more credibility to my assertions today that after a 10-year of frost, Turkey and United States are becoming friends again, and the new relationship would both politically and economically strengthen both countries. Before I finish, I want to thank you for your comments. Please like or subscribe. And also my good friends, Turkey's premium economy YouTube channel, Mesele Ekonomi, for co-producing this video. Stay chill.